Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.
Hi everyone, welcome at Wavect. Today with Ole Lehmann, who is the founder of Fynnster Limited. He is also derivatives trader and formerly music producer. And today we're going to talk about an amazing, super interesting topic, the Shitcoin Bible. Why do they exist and how are they created? Thank you for being here, Ole. It's a pleasure having you on. And starting out, I would love to give you a little bit the opportunity to explain yourself. What are you all about? How does your day look like? And what are you working on?
Yeah, hey everyone. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so what does my day look like? In general, I would just explain myself as a curiosity maximalist. So I'm basically all about learning. And that's something that's kind of, it's like the silver lining through my life, I would say. So I'm super passionate about Web3, obviously, super passionate about trading, about crypto, but also about house music, about techno, about community-based products, even community-based products outside of Web3. It's also something I'm very interested in. And I'm also a big advocate for psychedelic research and for like microdosing psychedelics. So I have a kind of a wide range of interest of topics, but I would say, the common denominator really is that I'm what I call myself curiosity maximalist. I'm just trying to learn something new every day, and that's basically what I'm all about.
Awesome. So basically perfect for crypto, which is all basically over the place as well. That's awesome.
There was a really complicated explanation of saying I'm just a degenerate, you know?
Yeah. Well, being a teacher in the space is probably not the worst thing to be. So definitely. Awesome. Yeah. And what are you currently working on? Would love to know.
So I've been like training a lot in the past, but this is, I'm trying to do this less and less. And I'm mainly focusing on building my podcast at the moment, which is called Wallets im Wunderland. It's in German at the moment, but I'm probably going to switch it up to English soon. So I'm working on educating people about Web3, but also about topics around entrepreneurship, about how to focus better, like the typical tech bro stuff, you know. That's what I'm focusing on at the moment, to really create a lot of content. And I can also see myself doing a startup in the Web3 space, but it's still behind the curtains. So I'm working on something, but it's not that far that I can share at the moment. But something's coming.
Well, I assume you need to tell me afterwards. So that's just awesome, super interesting. Since we want to talk about shitcoins today, I could assume that there are some people out there that might have heard of it but are not absolutely sure what is it at all. Would you like to bring some light onto this?
Yeah, so basically I would say a shitcoin, like what is a shitcoin? That's the question, right? So I was thinking about that, and for me it's a shitcoin for me is a coin which only utility is to pump. So basically everything is like optimized for the pump, right? So everything the team does, everything the team says, everything in the marketing, it's just meant to push the price up. So the price is is the focus of everything basically. So there are shitcoins which have like, which I would call shitcoins, which have like billions of market cap, but there are also shitcoins with like 10k market cap, right? So you can't say it has to be like a smallish coin. I think it's all about basically about the focus of the team. What do they want? Is there any real utility, or is it just fake utility to push the price up? And I think most shitcoins also have a big focus on false claims, and they always try to suck in new capital. And marketing is like at the core of everything. And the marketing is often aimed towards like promising things in the future. It's rarely, oh, we are already built this crazy DeFi product which has a lot of utility and like something innovative. But it's most of the time it's, oh, it's something in the future, jump into the spaceship with us and go to the moon and everything's gonna change. But then surprise, surprise, nothing really changes, and a lot of coins change hands. So shitcoins, but you can learn a lot of things from shitcoins, which is super interesting. You can learn a lot from a Ponzi basically, because they also do a lot of things right most of the time. So I see a lot of crypto or Web3 projects trying to do marketing, but they don't understand how to communicate with the audience, and they don't understand how to create hype. So if you're out there and you want to build a legit project, I think sometimes looking at like what people call shitcoins is a good idea actually, to see like what is if you pull the marketing knob from 0 to 11, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can always learn something from shitcoins as well. That was a long answer, but I hope it answered it.
I love it. So as some people used to say, the so-called pumpamentals, right?
The pumpamentals, yeah, exactly. The pumpamentals have to be right.
Yeah. So basically, your definition, to wrap it up in general, shitcoins are basically just token projects that don't have the intention to actually build something, let's say, useful or anything at all, right?
Yeah.
So the main question that some people might now have: why did some people or so many people actually buy them, and why, possibly, if so, did you buy them?
Why did I buy shitcoins? To be honest, why did I buy shitcoins? To make money. That's basically it. I think I see the shitcoin market as a like decentralized 24/7 casino. Basically, it's a casino, but I think if you play it right, it's a casino with better odds than just going to the casino and just gambling straight away. So I bought shitcoins because I saw kind of a movement happening, and I think that's a basic. I mean, shitcoins have been around for a long time. I think if I've actually read some articles about the first shitcoins, which were called like WorldCoin, I think, and FetherCoin, like back in like 2015 or 16 or something like that. But especially in 2020 and 2021, I mean, we had this crazy injection of capital into the markets because the quantitative easing. If your listeners don't know what quantitative easing is, basically it was just the Fed printing money. So the Federal Reserve was printing money. Everyone was getting stimulus checks. People had capital at hand, so they were sitting at home, lockdown, nothing to do, and like what to do with your time? Then gamble on shitcoins, right? So I think there was a huge influx of new players in the market and a lot of new uneducated members in the market. And I already had experience as a trader, so I would say I'm able to do like rather okay-ish technical analysis at least. I'm not working at Goldman Sachs or anything, but I can do some of it. And I think I had an edge in this market because most of the players, they didn't know anything, right? So they just went to Reddit or to TikTok and they heard about a coin and they bought it. Yeah. And I was charting them, and it wasn't even easy in the beginning to chart them because most of the chains like Binance Smart Chains, they didn't have any tools to chart the coins. And I remember the first days, the chain was so overloaded that all the validators went down, and you couldn't chart them, and everything was in the dark. And so I had to track it on a Google sheet with the prices. So it was crazy times. So basically, there was a lot of new capital in the markets, and I think I had an edge, and I also had risk management. So I knew a little bit like how I can play it without risking too much, but still capturing the upside. And I already had kind of a playbook how to basically find new projects and which ones to trust more or trust less. So we can talk about that later. So I think worked out a playbook for myself, which worked pretty decently.
That's super interesting. So basically, I would also say risk management is one of the most. Also, I'm not a full-time trader,
100%.
but yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, just don't buy in a big green candle.
It depends on the green candle, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, super interesting, super awesome. I would love to know now. Usually there is some sort of a life cycle. When we look at the token project, they all are different in some kind of sense, right? But what I have seen is that many of them repeat patterns that have worked for other projects, or even just have worked in the last couple of weeks and that might be a new trend and they try that out.
Yeah.
When you participated as a trader in these kind of launches, how did you experience these kind of token launches from your perspective? How did that go?
Yeah, so like back in the day, I would say it was a little bit different. So in 220, you still had a chance to basically get on a whitelist if you were active or if you find a project really early. And also if you knew some people that were in other tokens early, some people would just go to a Discord or a Telegram group and create memes. And like 2 years ago, it wasn't big of a thing. Now it's kind of commercialized and people just do meme contests for a living, which is also super interesting to think about. But back in 2020, you could go into the project and try to get on a whitelist. That could work. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't as crowded as today. So I did that a couple of times. But on the other hand, I also I either try to be in very, very early, so you can do something like Token Sniffer. I use that. I think you can also just use Dex Screener now at the moment, or DexSuit. I think they also have like a tool where you can just search for listings and you can see the liquidity. So sometimes I would just wait for new tokens to be listed that maybe resembled a name of a token which was already pumping. So let's say it's Kevin Coin is pumping, and then baby Kevin Coin comes out and it has decent liquidity, and I would just buy that. It sounds stupid, but you have these different ways how you can play this. So, but launches in general, to be honest, they are always kind of rigged in shitcoins. I think they are also rigged in the general market. If you think about VCs having huge bags and they're up 100x and they're just sending to basically exit liquidity of retail. It's the same in shitcoins. So I think the kind of safer way always is to find a narrative and then wait for a copycat, or find a narrative and look for the market leader and just wait for a dip and then you get in. So you don't have to get in at launch. And if you want to get in at the launch, it has to be a project with kind of lower hype, because if the hype is too high, you're just entering way too high and the upside is kind of capped.
In general, I have bought some tokens at launch myself, and what I have experienced myself is, if you are not in the whitelist, don't buy in the first couple of minutes, because usually
also the bots, they also have a lot of bots fucking up the launches, and you can just end up being the wick. It happened to me too. So this is not even if you try not to be the wick, sometimes you gotta be the wick.
Here we go. Bye money. 100%. So basically, would be curious to see what you think about this. For sure, for the audience here, what we talk about now, shitcoins in general, the space itself is heavily, based on the market, is heavily based on when did we do these things, right? For example, the meme contests might not work as well right now as they did 1 or 2 years ago, for example, if you participated in them. So back to the story, what I've experienced, for example, when the first dump comes and you believe it's a project that could go up again, which happens usually in the first 5 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, then or maybe in the first minutes, then you buy there, right? Because the first mini bots possibly already sold, or the first people, and you have a good entry, right? You're not buying into a green candle.
It also helps a lot to be able to watch Etherscan, even if it's on my a novice level. So I wouldn't consider myself, I'm not a developer, but just learning about how to watch wallets and Etherscan, and you can also use other tools, really helps a lot. So for example, if we looked at a launch, and usually it'll be like 3 or 4 degens, and then sometimes, the bot's buying, and then you have the bot's wallet, and you just watch the wallet and see, okay, the bot has sold all this position already. then it's a little bit safer to get in. Like you said, it's actually also a strategy. But also another thing, which is, I think, at least as important, is to go into the community and see how dedicated is the team. And you can judge this by certain measurements. It's like, one thing is like, how active are they? Do they do a lot of voice chats? Can they answer the questions correctly? Also, it might sound stupid, but it's actually a thing, like the quality of the memes they produce. Because some projects, maybe they get like some cool 3D animations, or they really think about the story of the coin, even if it's just a meme. And then if you then go back and think about what is a meme is just a means of communications between humans, right? So it's all about storytelling. And sometimes I'm like, is a meme count sounds always so, oh, there's nothing behind it, but you can have a pretty sophisticated meme in terms of how well is the story written, like how much thought was put into a meme coin. I recently saw another coin, maybe some people know it. It's called MRI. It's the Marshall Rogan Eno. It had a big pump a couple of months ago, and it was a coin, or it still is a coin, that wanted to help fighters get paid in the UFC, because there's this whole narrative, Dana White of the UFC, he doesn't pay his fighters well, and they were like, okay, we have this coin and it has a tax, so every time you sell or you buy, 10% of the transaction goes into their wallet, and this money is saved and then given to fighters. So they would just send some fighters 10K per fight, and they would just shout into the microphone, Marshall Rogan Eno, thank you for sponsoring me. And so they really had a narrative. And then obviously the price went down again. But at the moment, they are still building that. Now they have their own crypto fight league, and they have their first fight now with some, I would say, decent fighters. And that was interesting to me. The team, even though it was called a meme coin, but now I'm like, is it even a meme coin? Because there's so many crypto projects out there that never did anything in the real world, right?
Yeah.
They're just building a product, and we don't know if they use it. So sometimes it's interesting to see those projects, because they start as kind of a joke or an idea, but then they turn into this real, like, community-driven product. And I already told you about, I'm super hyped about like community-based products in general. So basically, what that means is you just take any community and you look for their needs, and you just build a product really aimed towards a niche community. And they just went for the fighting community, and now they're building a product for the fighting community. And like, okay, we just have our own league. You can bet on crypto. We have our own events. And then I'm like, it's so interesting, because in the beginning it was just the shitcoin, and it obviously, but now you have to think about back to our description deck. If the only utility is to pump, but this is not true anymore, right? So this changed. In the beginning, it was probably to have a narrative to pump, but actually now the team starts to deliver. So I think it's also an interesting way of really sometimes coming up with ideas for products as well. Obviously, there are legal implications, but it's a good playground just to watch what people are doing.
100%. In general, as you said, basically from our shitcoin, based on our own definition now, to actually something maybe useful, right? And that's how it should be. Some kind of innovation in the space, even if it's small things like that, right? Just, sponsoring some sports persons. So basically, that's how it should be. What you just beautifully said is regulation is always a big topic. You can't just launch a security token out of the box. And
no, you shouldn't.
Not a good idea, probably. So since that, you're super passionate about community-driven projects, and I'm so as well. How did you see these communities growing, right? Then and probably now, because that might be incredibly different. For example, last year with the bull market, where there were less requirements from the community that you actually build things, and now with the bear market and higher expectations.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. So last year there was only one thing. I always called it's green candle marketing. It's the best marketing, the easiest one. That's also why I think Web3 and crypto spread so wide, because they had tradable assets. And if you have tradable asset, and the asset goes up, it's the best way to market your product. Right now, obviously, the last couple of months were pretty different. But maybe if we look at how the coin I talked about grew the community, maybe we compare it to a project right now. So I think in the beginning, it often starts with the coin being launched. So we can talk about this kind of setup. So you launch the coin. Obviously, there's some hype around. Oh, there's something new. Some people come in, and usually they do, things like meme contests. 5 best memes win, I don't know what, $100 worth of tokens, or invite contest. But invite contest, it's a little spammy. People use bots, so I don't think it's really a good way to grow a community. I think, and this answer might not satisfy people. The best way to community is like just to really generally care about your community and think about how can you bring your community closer, and how can you get them more committed. Because I recently read a really good book about community building. If anyone's interested, it's called The Business of Belonging. And he talks about like a commitment graph, so if you have like a graph on how committed is someone, and as the commitment goes up, the actions someone in the community is taking will go up exponentially, basically. So in the beginning, you can't ask for too much, right? So you maybe create rituals, like you have like a weekly fireside chat. You can ask the founders, it's Q&A, or you do like a Friday beer meetup, and everyone's opening a beer and just telling stories. I think a community is all about rituals, and you have to think about it more as a tribe, I think, because humans, we come from tribalism, and I don't mean it in a like a negative way. It's the art of belonging somehow. So you always have to think about how can you give someone the feeling for belonging. So I think one thing is like rituals is a really great way, like weekly meetups, weekly coffee, maybe even weekly like a little counseling if people have some problems, not everything personal, but maybe with the product, or feedback rounds. People love to do that. And maybe then you can do a little bit of co-creation is also great. So let's say you have your next launch and you want to give it a name, right? Your new token or whatever, or your new NFT, sub NFT, and you just put up a vote, or you do little subgroups. And for example, Bored Apes always did a really great job for that. So they created this little like story sub DAO that's just writing stories, right? So you have this people that see themselves as writers, so they belong even more to the community. So they do a sub community. This is also a great way to grow it, to really think about what are the people in my community, what are the values that the people have, and what is the value that those people can bring to my project. So if you have a really good community, you will also get back a lot of value from your community. And this is really the tipping point, when you don't have to, if the community is a little fire, in the beginning you have to blow all the time, but then at a certain point it would just burn, and it will burn even crazier than you ever thought before, because it's just running on its own. And then that's always something you should aim for. Like, how can I give my community the possibility to really create inside our world? And how can I give them the feeling that they actually belong here? And for the fighting, I think it was great, because I think people who love the UFC, they have this feeling, that's something that's, because the UFC used to be kind of this niche product, and I think I heard about Dana White's story. He's like, no one wanted to host the UFC, and we were the outlaws of martial arts. Now it's bigger, it's pretty huge now. But I think it has this like outlaw feeling to it, and this, we are different, but we belong together. And then they use this for the community, and now they have their own fights, and they have their own events, and they also have their own like spokesperson. So they have some influencers, which used to be complete shitcoin influencers, but now it's interesting because now they are kind of more in a traditional role as a fight promoter. And one of them, he's like an ex, I think it was a wrestler as well, and now he's doing this like I don't know
No
how it's
way.
called in English.
Okay, moderation.
Now, yeah, the moderation, and it's like ready to fight, like this shouting to the microphone. So yeah, this was a long answer, but I think it's really about caring about your community and not caring about your community as a vehicle to pump your price. Because if you once enter this relationship,
It's over.
it's really the wrong. It's over. Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me basically of sales, right? When people want you to succeed, you succeed. So
Yeah,
if you have
100%.
people that like your project, like you as a person, have that cozy atmosphere that you were talking about, then they will promote your project for you.
That's actually it actually reminds me of one other thing. I think it's super important to get your community to think about your wins as their wins. So if you release the new product, it has to be there or new updates for. Oh my god, the new update is out and it's now we're even better. So that also really helps. Sometimes there's also something you can do. Something some people might criticize it, but it works really well. Is to kind of build off the us versus them narrative, and this doesn't mean you have to create hate for another project, right? This could be it's us versus the UFC now, and we are the better UFC because we actually pay our fighters, or things like that. And it's like us versus the establishment because we are crypto and we try to be censorship resistant, and we try to build something different. You can always use this narrative to kind of define what differs us from the group we are competing with. Maybe that also helps.
Yeah, it's always about the vision, right? The emotions that you trigger as a person, as a project. Right? The more people are drawn to that storytelling, as you mentioned, the stronger, possibly also your price chart, right?
Yeah.
But also your startup, let's call it that way, if you're serious about it, in that kind of sense.
I mean, the chart is one last thing to add. The chart in the end is just an accumulation of the emotions of all participants towards your project. So I think most people miss that point. It's like, oh yeah, but we also have to focus on the price. But if you focus on people that value your project and that really are committed to your project, you can't have a problem with the price. Maybe if you sell all the time, then you can have a problem. But usually, if you take care of a real commitment by your community and long-term value, your price should be okay.
Yeah, truly care, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked now about things that would be awesome having in a project. What are some possibly red flags or things that you look for when you think of buying a shitcoin?
Red flags. So I think the first thing is it's also like a two-sided coin. So if the team is anonymous and they don't have a track record, that's already a thing where like, oh, you really have to look closer. I don't have a problem with anonymous teams; they can be really, really good. But usually it's good if the coin is launched and someone can vouch for the founder, because sometimes because the shitcoin. If you talk about shitcoins again, the shitcoin ecosystem, there are tons of coins, but usually a lot of the founders are connected. So most of the times they can say, oh no, we know this person, he launched another coin before, and probably that's also that's a pretty good sign. Then I look for if the liquidity is locked. If the liquidity isn't locked, I don't buy. That's basically a thing for me, because if people don't know it, if you don't lock the liquidity, you can basically rug pull the project, and then your money is gone. Your money can also be gone with locked liquidity, but it's a little bit harder. Then if founders have sketchy past, so I think in crypto there are many examples of people have a sketchy past and relaunching projects, and people trust them again, which also is crazy. So people like I think what is called Zifu, or even like Do Kwon, he already launched a failed stablecoin before, and it completely failed, and then he tried the same thing again. I mean, obviously, maybe sometimes you try something innovative and it fails, it's so completely okay. But most of the times when I lost money, I was like, I kind of knew it. It wasn't a complete yeah.
Always some signs, basically, right?
Yeah,
So-
there was some signs always, yeah. And then I would say over-promising on a roadmap is also something to really look out for. So if you're just launching your coin, and on the first day it's like, and we create, you know, the best new decentralized exchange and the new DeFi protocol and cross-chain and blah blah blah, like things that just take time to develop. And you're like, okay, you only have a website, right? So, and yeah, so just looking at the website is also very helpful. It's little things. If the website just looks like someone did it in 10 minutes on Fiverr, you can tell, like, is the design decent? How is the copywriting? Those are, and it's interesting because if you do this for some time, you get like a sixth sense for it. I would say in my like prime shitcoin times, I could do 10 or 15 minutes of research, and I can already tell for like 80% probability if this would be a rug puller. I was very fast, and I was right most of the time. So I was in shitcoins for a long time, but I haven't been rug pulled tons of times. So I think it also works over time.
That's a
And
good quality sign.
yeah, there's not on my LinkedIn, but you know, I'm very good at looking at shitcoins very fast and saying if they're rug pull.
That could be a
Yeah,
business
then
model. So-
yeah, I mean, but then another thing I always look like when the coin is already launched, to look at the distribution of top wallets. So if you see, you can also go on Etherscans and you click on top holders. And if you see a lot of wallets with a lot of the supply unlocked, that's a really, really bad sign. So usually if it's above like 2%, that's already a bit too high for me. But don't be like, sometimes there is another wallet of a burn wallet, so don't go on the top holders and see a wallet that's 30% and go to Telegram and say, oh, it's a scam. You know, you have to look what's the wallet, because sometimes those are deployer wallets, or they're somehow connected to some technical things in the project. But usually if you see a lot of wallets with high percentages, and you can also look at the wallets and see their price, you know, so I would go to those wallets now. And if I see those wallets and they bought at pre-sale, so they bought before the launch basically, or very early in the launch, and their price is up like 100x, that's a red flag. You have to be very careful about that. If you look at bigger projects, so like, if we don't just talk about shitcoins, but maybe like
Please,
something in between, you know, some coins, they are still shitcoins, but they have big VC backings. And if I see those coins, I usually go to Messari. It's a great research site. And you can look at the token release schedule. So what I look for is like dilution. What dilution means, you know, it's more and more coins can be unlocked over time. And if those coins are unlocked and they are up on a crazy markup, they will add selling pressure to the project. So it's really, really important to know what is the how does the token dilution look like over time. If you just plan for a short trade, and it's okay, but if you plan on holding something, and you know, over the next couple of months, a lot of tokens will come onto the market, and they have a way lower price point than you have. So the VCs are incentivized to basically sell very fast. Yeah, that's bad. And maybe like one last thing is, look for like really coordinated marketing on crypto Twitter. Because if you see this and this is your trigger to buy, you're usually very late. Because those marketing efforts, they are paid, and most of the times those people have a lot of tokens. And if you just buy because 10 people at the same time shill the same coin, be very careful. Better wait for a dump, because usually then it will dump on you, because those people will dump. And yeah, that's another thing I would just watch out for. And yeah, it's funny because I would say bad marketing and really good marketing are red flags sometimes. Because if the marketing is really bad for a token,
sure.
it's sometimes very hard for the price to go somewhere, because they basically expect people to understand the project and the fundamentals. And to be honest, we're still in a market where fundamentals, they do matter. They especially matter over time, but you still need marketing 100%. Without marketing, even Bitcoin, when people say, oh, Bitcoin never had marketing, like, that's so stupid. Bitcoin had the best marketing ever because people are like Bitcoin maximalists and they do the marketing for Bitcoin, you know? So, but there are like millions of people doing marketing for Bitcoin on their own. It's like decentralized marketing basically for Bitcoin. And if the marketing is too good and it's too shiny and too flashy, then it's also for me, it's a reason to really look into the project and see, is this really something substantial or is this basically built on hype and smokes and mirrors?
Yeah, usually you see it on the price chart anyway, right? If all of
Yeah.
the influencers are posting and you have a
Yeah.
big green candle, then it's again usually not the best idea to buy right now, but to wait until that cool off, and then to see if they're able to catch up again, right? To actually do something
Yeah.
with it.
But it's so hard for most people. It's so hard to buy a red candle, and I think that's something you really have to learn, right? For me, it was the same thing. So humans are like, in the end, it's like herd behavior. And if you see something going up, you feel like, oh, it's amazing, and I'm excited, I want to be part of it. But if you see it going down, it's so connected to emotions that you really have to learn.
Yeah.
Really have to learn. Oh, that's something good. If prices are depressed, right now, like maybe if we would have talked last year the same time, and you would ask me, no, what are you excited about for the future opportunities to buy, and I would be like, oh, if ETH, goes below 1,000 again, that would be amazing, it would be the best day. But once ETH came back down to under 1,000, I felt like, oh my god, it's going to fucking 400. But I executed on my plan. I'm not saying that ETH has bottomed, but I think it's really important to work on your psychology, to work on a plan if you want to buy stuff, because once those prices come, they will feel completely different. It's like making a contract with your future self and trusting your current self kind of more. So to explain that, so today I would maybe think, okay, I would buy ETH if it goes to 600, 100%. So right now I don't have the emotions of seeing the chart with a red candle, so once ETH would maybe hit 600, maybe it doesn't, but let's say it goes to 600, you have this huge red candle and you have some narrative, right? So maybe something happens in the world. I don't know what could happen. Something bad happens and you're like, oh my god, I can't buy now because this bad thing happened. But then you have to trust yourself from the past, like someone who made a plan with a relaxed state of mind, because in the situation you will be like your cortisol, like all the stress hormones that will come up and they will the thoughts will tell you to not buy. So it's really important to trust the person who made the plan and not the person sitting in front of the computer looking at a bad chart.
Yeah, that also reminds me of the, how do you say, the, if you are in loss, you tend to not sell, right? Or many people are so hurt by their emotions. Oh, well, I'm $200 in decline. I made a loss of $200. But in general, most people or many people then just wait until it's basically 99 or 80% loss or something like that.
Yeah, and then they sell. Yeah.
Hey, Ole, really, I enjoyed the discussion with you. Do you maybe have 3 key takeaways you want people to remember from this awesome session?
Okay, so I think first of all, it's very boring, but manage your risk. If you invest in something, never take a big percentage, especially if you play higher risk plays. You can have a crazy upside. So if you risk maybe 2% of your capital, or maybe if you go really crazy and you risk like 3 or 4%, if this thing goes 100x, right, it will be bigger than your portfolio by like a big amount. So manage your risk, and if you manage your risk, it's also really important to prepare for the worst outcome. And the worst outcome is usually at least 50% worse than you think. So think about the worst thing and put out 50% on top, then you're probably around a good level. That's number one. Then number two would be don't buy for adoption yet. Don't hold for adoption yet. Crypto is still 99% marketing for me. and maybe 1% is the true fundamental value, and those would shift over time. So always be aware about the hype cycles. If something has a huge hype and you are in profit, always sell some. Always take some profit. Never be in the mindset, oh, but this thing is going to change the world. This is going to be the Amazon of crypto or whatever. The chances that you will pick a multi-cycle winner are very, very, very low. And I would say the same thing about myself. Besides Bitcoin and ETH, I don't hold anything long-term. So always remember that. And then one thing which is also people always hate me for is always hold some cash. Don't listen to the cash is trash crowd. I mean, now you can see why it's important. So I always I keep at least 30% of cash, and when I talk about cash, I talk about stable coins. So something like USDC, I think is
or UST.
Pretty safe. UST, no, man, I had some UST, but let's not
really.
talk
Oh my
about
gosh, sad.
Yeah, but I sold it for not 1 cent, so I sold it for still higher, but yeah,
still bad enough.
Okay, so keep some cash. You can keep it lower in bull times, but it's also good to have at least 30% cash in bull times. If you have a big dip, it's better for your psychology to have some cash. And in bull times, build up your cash position. Don't use your profits and buy other shitcoins, because at some point there will be a tipping point and you will give back a lot of your profits. So I sometimes call it to build up your profit bank. Think about like a savings account. If you make money in a bull times, just put it there for the bear times, so you can just always have enough cash. And then one last thing, I would maybe say, don't mistake luck for skill. And I would just tell this to myself. If you made a lot of money in the bull market, doesn't mean anything. Maybe it means you're a good picker. It could be true. Maybe you have some alpha, maybe you have some skills, but the true skill will show in a bear market. And the true skill is to keep your money and not to make it. In a bull market, every idiot will make some money. So really, if I can maybe inspire someone to really focus on how to invest over time, and also to how to work on your psychology, and basically how to keep your money. And what I said before, like to always take profit into cash, at least some. If you take profit, maybe take 50% into Ethereum and 50% into a stablecoin, or 30%, and just put it away for the next cycle, because the next cycle will come and the next downturn will come.
Yeah. There's even multiple sayings for that, right? Don't fucking lose money. So basically,
it's Warren Buffett, right? Yeah. Rule number 1: don't lose money. Number 2: don't lose money. Number 3: you can guess.
Love it. Hey, thanks Ole for being on the show. Really was an awesome discussion. And if there are any questions from the audience, drop them below. I will also put Ole's links, podcast, and everything into the video description, just for your reference if you're interested to look further into his projects. And thanks everyone for having.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Indeed.
Wavect, the web-free software company that understands what you want.